Hello! Today we are here to discuss Resafa. This is the latest from Vladimir Suchy, who's one of, I know, your favorite designers, and one of designers we all like. Before we get into any discussion on it, though, make sure you hit the subscribe button and the like button down there so you can follow along with all of our exploits, hijinks, and ne'er-do-well activities that we have on this channel. So, Rob, what can you tell us about Resafa?
Okay, Resafa is a 2024 release. Got a mixture of different mechanics in it. We got some multi-use cards. We got some pick up and deliver, a little bit of route building, stuff like that. So it's pretty interesting mechanics. Overall rank on Board Game Geek is 5,120 with an individual rating of 7.5. It plays 1 to 4 people in about 90 to 100 minutes, which is 120 minutes, which I think was pretty accurate. I think that's how long it took us. For ages 14 and up, I don't know, that might seem a little high. I don't know.
Well, I mean, the strategies in this are a little complex.
A little, but
the gameplay is pretty simplistic.
Yeah, I felt like it was definitely a medium weight game. Now, designed by, like Randy said, Vladimir Suchy, which is awesome. Art by, and I apologize if I butchered the name, but Michael Pakel, I think is how you pronounce it, published by Delicious Games. Now, the MSRP, I can't believe it's $80.
Yeah,
which doesn't feel like an $80 game. But Card House definitely has it at a little bit more reasonable price of $57.95. They're the cheapest. Noble Knight had a copy, might be used because they do a little bit of both, $64.95, and Gamers Guild had one at $67.95. Okay. But Card House is the cheapest.
Yep, and that's where we got it.
That's right.
All right, so let's talk about the quality of components. It's a lot of cardboard.
A lot of cardboard.
A lot of cards.
A lot of cardboard.
And the cards have no linen finish. They're just smooth, glossy. The cardboard are little like chits, almost like what you see in the 3M games, but they represent resources. They kind of have to be cardboard in the sense that you're going to be loading some of them onto camels that are going to journey around, and they made slits in the camel.
Right.
But as far as the
tiles have a little bit of a linen finish, but not much of one.
I mean, it's an oversized board. It takes up a lot of real estate on the table. But as far as there's nothing outstanding. The board does have a linen finish to it, and you have player boards, but they don't have inlays. They're just player boards.
Right.
And they're kind of small. They're not. They do the job.
But they function. Yeah.
Yeah. They're completely.
They don't need to be any bigger.
And you probably don't want them to be because you're building a terrain next to them. So you're going to need real estate on top of what's already with the board. So as far as quality, I can't really give this more. I'll give it a 5.5. I think that's about 5.5 to 6 is the highest I could even.
Yeah, I was going to say maybe a 6 just because of the amount of stuff that you get, but
not for that price point.
Yeah, not for $80.
Yeah.
So yeah, probably 6.5.
Yeah, I mean, if you can pick this up at a cheaper price like what Card House has, it's more reasonable, then, yeah, I could understand it. But
it's not
MSRP of $80. There's not $80 worth of material here. As far as, was your score 5.5, 6?
Yes, yeah, 6.5.
6.5. Oh, yeah. Okay. Going higher than me. All right, theme. It's completely layered onto the gameplay.
For sure.
You know, it makes sense that you've got elements of games like Marco Polo, where you're traveling around with your camel, making trades.
Yeah, with cost in between each city.
And then I think it feels a little bit like Ezra and Nehemiah as far as the card play. It's a little different. It's like Ezra and Nehemiah, you're building up strength with each card you play for a specific colors.
Right.
This one, you use the colors for different actions. So each card you play is two-sided, and you can choose the action, but it also has a color to give you a second action, which is not really, I mean, it's an action, I guess, but it's a different type of action. So as far as the theme, I don't think it's really important to the game.
It's not. It's kind of like that classic Euro. Just it is what it is.
Yeah.
There's nothing special about it, and it doesn't. The artwork doesn't really add to it. It's not ugly by any stretch of imagination, but it's not beautiful either. The cards are pretty plain. The tile artwork on the tiles, just okay.
Yeah.
I mean, overall, it's just okay.
Yeah. I mean, it is fully functional, and
for sure
you have some dead space around the board, but I don't mind it because it doesn't.
It gives you a little
cluttered.
bit more space too. So yeah,
it doesn't feel cluttered. So given that the theme is kind of pointless to the gameplay, but it's there, I'll give it a 6.
I think I'm the same boat. Yeah, I think 6 would be good.
All right, moving on to the rule book. So the rule book is a 20-page rule book. It's not a paper stock. Well, I mean, it is paper, but it's more like it almost feels like a plastic. It's got a smooth, glossy finish. It's the same cut picture pretty much as the art on the cover. There's a little bit of backstory. That's all the backstory you get is that one paragraph blurb on the cover. Then it goes into the game setup for the main board, and it's got all the pieces with counts next to them, so you got pictures of everything, which is good. And then you've got your personal player board set up. There's a lot of pieces, but it doesn't take that long to really set it all up. That's the good news. Putting it away, you got to separate everything back out is kind of a nuisance, but if you get it out, you'll probably want to play it a few times because it's going to be, the work that you're getting into putting it away is going to be high. Yeah. There's a lot of baggies that you're going to be putting things into to separate them. So there's no real storage mechanism in the box. It's an empty box once you get all the pieces out. So you're not going to have a nice storage system in there. Then it goes into gameplay on page 5. The good news is for this weight of a game, it's from page 5 to page 16, but basically they walk you through all the different action types, and that's what most of the space is just talking about all the different actions you could take. The overall gameplay is very simple.
Yeah, I think it's simple, and it's pretty intuitive. I think you don't really need a cheat sheet because it's if you need a cheat sheet on anything, maybe a little bit of the iconography, but once you get it down, I don't even think a cheat sheet's really required after that.
Right. Then there's a 2-page solo mode, followed by an index or appendix of the cards, the different special cards, and then on the back there's kind of an image iconography cheat sheet. So this maybe would have been what I would have put for everybody to have a copy of, but there's, you don't really have any need. I mean, once you get the basics of this, it's going to be pretty simple to understand what you're doing. As long as somebody has read the rules and can teach it, as far as what you need to do with each action, it's pretty simple to pick up. We were able to teach you how to play the game in less than 10 minutes.
Yeah, I picked it up pretty quick.
So as far as the rulebook goes, there were no holes. We didn't have any issues. There's no translation issues and none of that. And there was really no confusion during the gameplay. I'm going to give the rulebook probably an 8.
Okay.
It's nothing exciting, but it does its job, does it well.
And you did a good job teaching it, so I think that just lends a little bit of credence to the rulebook too. So.
Yeah. All right, moving on to gameplay. So at the beginning of the game, everybody's going to start at 0 victory points, unless you're playing a 4-player game. The 4th player gets like 2 victory points to start the game and an extra coin, I think.
Okay.
But with 3 players, what we played today, there was just everybody got starting resources. And everybody gets to take, I think 3 is almost the sweet spot for the game because everybody gets to take first player one time, twice during the game.
Twice, yeah.
So if you're 4-player, there's going to be 2 people that don't get it.
It felt really good with 3-player. Now, granted, this is my only time playing it, but it felt good at 3-player.
It felt good at 4-player too. We played it at 4 and it was fine. I don't know if I'd want to try this with 2, but the other side of this board is set up for a smaller group, like 2.
Okay.
Or 1. It's the one side is over there too. So you could play this at 2. I just think it's really optimized for 3 and 4. You start the game with 6 cards in your hand. You're going to shuffle up and you're going to draw 3 of them. These cards are 2-sided. They have 2 colors, one at the top, one at the bottom, and then they have 2 actions associated with those colors. They have 4 different sets of these that have Greek letters on there. You just pick one at random. The actions are exactly the same on the same cards. The only difference are the colors associated with them are distributed differently. So you're going to have different patterns of colors associated with the cards. That's really it. The 2 actions you get are the pictured action that you choose, whether you choose to play it upside down or right side up, and then the color action. So the color action is the easiest thing to teach. So there's 3 things you can do with a color action. One, there are 4 different color bars here at the bottom that have charts that you can move up. As you move up the charts, you're going to be able to unlock these different decks of cards in them. And if you reach the card point, you'll be able to take either the top card and get a victory point and a coin, or you can pick up the stack and choose any card you want from that stack, but then you're sacrificing the victory point and coin for doing that. Whether, even if you end up selecting the top card at the end of that, you're still losing, that victory point and coin because you had the option to pick from the others.
Now, granted, like I said, this is only the first time, but I really think that the yellow section is really important because that upgrades your basic cards.
Yeah.
So that was really super important. I think that would be like a given no matter what strategy you take in this game. I think that's a good area to always focus on.
I like doing that.
And the same thing with the pink because it gives you in-game scoring.
Yeah.
So I think those two, I did a little bit of the blue, which isn't a whole lot, and I didn't do any of the white at all. And I mean, maybe if I get to play this again, I might try that instead of focusing blue, maybe do the white. But I don't see how you cannot focus, at least get high up on the yellow and the pink.
Yeah, and we played this with three player and 4 player with different strategies, and the scoring was fairly tight. It was not like one strategy ran away.
Somebody didn't blow it up.
Right.
Yeah, overwhelm them.
So, I mean, the potential always exists for that, especially if you have somebody who's more experienced than other players. But as far as the overall strategies, I don't think any one strategy is going to dominate every time. It's going to depend. There's various cards that are going to be, you're going to not always play with the same cards. In a 3 or 4 player game, you're going to have 4 cards here, but there's 6 cards, so 2 of them get randomly pulled out of each stack. The game is played over 6 rounds, and each round consists of playing 3 of your cards. Now, the cards, when you play the first 3 rounds, you're going to backfill. So if I play a card, I'm going to draw one from my remaining stack to replace it. After the 3rd card play, we start round 2, at which point the first player token rotates to the left. And then that round now, you're not going to have a stack to pull from because you've drawn the other 3 cards that you had in your draw pile. So you're going to flip over all the cards, and then you're going to start playing on top of them additional actions from those 3, but you have to play all of your cards in the course of 2 rounds. So you're always going to have a hand or a total deck size of 6 cards. Right. Now, there are special cards you can hold in your hand as well. You can have a max hand size of 5, which means your 3 cards that are your action cards plus 2. And most of the cards you get, anything down here on these tracks, you're going to get and you're going to put them on the table. And then you're not going to count it as part of your hand size. Now, there are the other actions. Instead of taking one of the colors and moving up the track to get a card, is I can choose one of these one-time use or bonus cards that will be in the color that I have played the card in.
Right, so again, if you pick that yellow, you'd be able to pick a card from the yellow.
Yes.
Face-up market, I guess you could call it.
And then you're going to get that ability. You can hold on to it until you decide to play it. So as long as you have storage capacity in your hand, you can hold it. The third option is, in my opinion, the weakest of the bunch. There are cards that have a bag on the back, and you can take a bag card and put it in your hand. And that's either going to grant you a free resource or resources, or let you trade one-time resources. And those seem to be very weak.
I don't know. I got 2 of them that really helped me out being able to get to do the actions I needed to do.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, you're right. They're one time and they're super quick, and it's just a little bit of a bump, I guess you could say, but they helped.
Yeah. Now the good news is if you don't play them, at the end of the game, they're worth a victory point. The first time I played, I won by that 1 victory point.
Right.
So
it could make a difference.
Yeah, it could make a difference. The other actions you can take are pictured on the card. So one is I can build a building. So the buildings are on the table. They have a cost of 1 coin and 1 stone, no matter what building you build.
And you start with 2.
You start with 2 already played, and they always connect at a diagonal. So that's important because between buildings you can build oases or gardens that are going to fill up that space. And when you connect, there's little green kind of semicircles on each one of them. And if you connect 2 of the green semicircles, you get those bonuses. And the nice thing is the next time you add another garden to that area, you're going to get those bonuses again. And you can do up to 3 different small gardens in that area. Granted, it means you're going to take more actions to create that full garden, because it takes 3 small ones or 1 small and 1 big one to complete a garden. And having completed gardens is important for building canals, which is one of the other options you have. Also, it's important for some of the bonus scoring. So you want to have completed gardens, and it also gives you perks as you complete gardens to help you out in moving up these tracks in particular, since you can fall behind, and if you're trying to get a specific card before somebody else does, this is a good way to catch up. So, and they also grant you some victory points too.
So that's buildings.
That's building. So there are 2 types of buildings. The second column are a little more powerful, but in order to get them, you have to have gathered merchants, and they have kind of like it almost looks like a bottle, like where you would put a boat inside of a bottle. Side. Yeah. So you go up through the entrance to that bottle, if you will, and you're going to place tiles. There's 2 spots for tiles for merchant tiles. There's various ways to get merchant tiles. The most common way is by trading, which we'll get into in a moment. But when you place the second one, that unlocks the ability to build these buildings once the overall buildings are unlocked. They don't unlock for the more powerful ones until round 3 starts. So you basically have to make it to round 3 and have 2 of the merchants in play. Then once you've done that, there's 9 more spaces for merchants, and these will power up like scoring at the end of the game for different categories, for garden tiles, for buildings, and for canals. So whatever one you're kind of focused on as far as your strategy of building the most of, that's the one you're going to want to put those tiles down for first. But the merchants can be super powerful for that reason. Additionally, there's a special merchant that's got a scarab on it. Certain spaces will grant you a scarab, and those, the more you collect,
the set collection,
they're going to give you more victory points for at the end of the game. So there's a lot of ways to score in this game. So that's buildings. As we mentioned, gardens, that's another option. Gardens are going to let you build a garden, either a small one which costs a stone, or a big one which costs a stone and a coin. And you're going to place them in between your buildings. So if we build a large one, let's say, and placed it here, now you're connecting a stone and a coin, so you would get that immediately, a stone and a coin. Later on, you could build a small one, complete the garden, and you would trigger that stone and coin again.
But then you built your first garden, so then you see what reward it would give you for doing that.
So the gardens are pretty simple, but you can build them anywhere attached to any one of your buildings. So you could, it doesn't have to be you're attaching to 2 buildings. You could build it
It's just to get more perks, the more buildings around it. And you can rotate the buildings.
Yep.
So ideally, you could have 4 buildings, and then when you start putting something in the center for the garden, you can get a lot of bonuses.
Yes. And the thing is if you build the buildings later, they don't kick off and trigger. Right. It's the gardens that trigger those bonuses. So you want to make sure you get your buildings down first, if you can, then build the gardens between them.
Right.
So that's gardens. Then there's also one that just triggers another color scoring, which lets you move up the track or get a card of the color or get a bag. There's one that lets you trigger markets. So each of these buildings is a market, if you will. Now, if you do that, there's 2. They each have 2 white bars on them on one side. The other side has a single white bar with victory points, and it also has a plus, kind of looks like a shovel.
Yeah, this is called production.
And that's production. So whenever you trigger a production round, you by default can trigger 2 of the boxes. That's not 2 tiles, that's 2 boxes.
Yeah, because like you said, it's mentioned to split 2 white. So you could do 1 white on this tile, another white on another tile.
Right.
Or you could do 1 each.
Yes.
But you have to pick different ones.
They cannot be the same. So then the other option is if you have flipped it over to the other side, you have additional production. Yeah.
It's on these.
You can pick one of these tiles and when you build it, instead of building it face up, build it face down, At which point you will have additional shovel, and now
You can
from
pick
that
a
point on,
third.
when you do a production, you'll get another building or another box that you can trigger.
which on one of them is 3 victory points.
Right,
So
so
I utilize that towards the end of my
Yeah,
game.
me too.
Because I was running out of stuff to. I really like. We haven't talked about it yet, but I really like focusing on the canal area, and I didn't have the right stuff to do it yet. So I was like, why not get 3 victory points
Yeah.
instead?
So yeah, I like the system of the production
Yeah.
in there. It's really useful for getting the resources we need them.
And it's unique too. So it's kind of cool, like some of the things that let you do.
So that's production. So then the next option is
The market
the trade.
or the trade.
Yeah, so there's a handshake symbol that lets you trade. So you can start out at Resafa, and you can pay coins for each space you move, and you can get to a spot where you can either buy or sell. You cannot do both.
And what's kind of cool is some of them have this little yellow section, so that's like a bonus for that section.
Yeah.
You don't get it on both
It's
sections.
either buying or selling. It's
Right.
attached to, and or it may not be on there at all.
But these are really lucrative, and you get a ton of points.
For selling.
Yeah.
Yeah. The real catch in this is you can only buy or sell whatever is on your camel.
Right.
So if you have resources you've gained in your inventory from playing cards, you can't sell those. They're not on your camel.
Yet.
Unless you go back by Resafa again. If so, you can basically make a pit stop and
Drop
swap
off whatever or
goods.
pick up or
Your camel can only carry one type of good, but they can carry up to your camel's limit, which at the beginning of the game is 1, but it can go as high as 7.
which is actually another action on a card you could take, which is the camel, which allows you to go up that
Well,
track.
there's no card that has it, but there's
So there's
spaces
the
that let
spaces
you
that do
do
it,
it. And some of the
and then
cards.
some of the tiles.
Yeah. Some of the production tiles will do it. There's
Yeah.
some cards that give it to you. But yeah, you want to increase your camel's carrying capacity so you don't have to keep making frequent pit stops to trade things out.
Right.
But then also it lets you buy more goods to store on it.
But yeah, Miranda, I guess on the first game she did it really well. This
Yeah.
last time she did it a couple times where she was getting like 20 plus points for selling a bunch of items.
So the catch is basically the two main goods you're buying are spices or pottery. All of the buying of spices are on the blue section of the board. All of the selling of spices are on the orange section.
And vice versa for pottery.
Yeah, and vice versa, right. So if you want to buy, you're going to have to go to the other side of the board to sell. And it's going to take you more money to do so and another action.
Mm-hmm.
So you've got, you trade-offs, because during the course of the game, you're going to get 6 turns with 3 cards per turn. So
Right.
18 total actions, except for the color actions, makes it 36. But the color actions really don't weigh in here very much. It's really those main actions.
Yeah, one thing that really helped me, I think, because granted, I did win this one, but not by much. But those yellow cards, like I said, they gave you bonus abilities.
Yeah.
And that really helped me out a lot.
Yeah, as you build up the yellow cards, the higher level ones give you wild actions, and all of them have a wild color, so you can choose whatever color to go for that way.
And then, like, one of the cards gave me 3 stone and 2 money every time I played it, which helped out a lot.
In the
and
middle,
it gave me extra production actions, which helped me out a lot.
Right, in the middle of each one, it's got some kind of perk that you're going to get for that card when you play it, every time you play it. The other thing that's nice is whenever you refresh after every second round, they're going to go, those
you don't have to
upgraded
draw them,
cards
they go
immediately go to your hand at the beginning of the turn.
Which is really useful.
So you can hold on to them until you want to play them, or play them immediately. So you know you're going to get those perks. So that's the trade action. Oh, and as part of the trade as a free action, when you go to a new location and do the action there, you can pay a coin and a stone and place one of your cubes down on that territory, and that's how you would get one of the merchants. So that you'll always want to do that.
Absolutely. I didn't get to do it enough, and I think I would have scored quite a few more points if I was able to.
Yeah, so having coin and stone is very important in this game. So that's the trade action. The next action is probably the most complex one, and that's the canal action. So the canal, there's kind of two pieces to this. There's the main board where the river already is printed on the board, and there's waterways that kind of come from reservoirs that have blue cubes at the beginning of the game starting on them. When you build a tile for there, you pay, each tile has a cost associated with it, and it's got victory points associated with some of them that you're going to pay the cost. The better the tile, the more it's going to cost you. And you're going to place it somewhere. You get to place it anywhere you want on that board. Some of the spaces are worth more victory points than others, but you got to also consider the reason they're worth more is you generally have less access to those spaces.
Right.
So you want to kind of maximize your path that you build. So the water does not start flowing until somebody builds a tile next to one of those reservoirs, at which point that water will join onto your tile, and whenever every even round, at the end of the round, you're going to have a canal scoring. So that means every canal you build is going to give you victory points every 2 rounds. So getting them down early is really useful because you'll get victory points.
That definitely helped me.
Yeah. The other thing is they score again as water moves through your tiles. So whoever played the tile that brought the water into the first tile controls the route that the water takes. Now,
you could be pretty strategic and try and make sure it hits your tiles more than your opponent's.
Yeah. So as you move it down, you can try to avoid going through your opponent's tiles because every one it hits, it triggers a scoring for that tile again.
And then not only that, at the end of the game, you score on those tiles a final time.
A time, yeah.
So they're worth a lot of points.
And the other thing is, as you build your gardens out and play a merchant, you're going to be able to build final destinations for the water. Those are worth a ton of points.
Yes.
So,
but the cost of them is quite a bit too.
Yeah.
4 marble and 4 coin.
Yeah, but then once they're there, you only have 2 of them in your possession to start the game anyway, so you can only build 2.
Right.
But there's 5 spaces for them, so you want to try to get yours down before other people do.
And then if you get to activate that water, you're scoring 4 points each time you activate the water.
Yeah, not to mention the spaces you play on are worth the most points too.
All of them but one are worth, one's a 7, one's 6, and the other 3 are 8.
Yeah.
So that's a lot of points.
Yeah. So if you can get water to route to your end destination, you're going to score a ton of points.
Yes.
Which you were moving the waterways, you were gracious enough to load them through my place.
Well, it was the only one to go to.
No, you actually had an option. I wasn't going to tell you again because I told you, but you could have routed it down the green.
That's true.
And there's basically one thing that's kind of weird about the canals. Normally it would flow wherever the water path leads you. You can never go back up, but you could always go down or sideways. And this one, even if there's some desert between, if there's an offshoot branch on the tile that the water's on, you could route the water to the other tile, even though there's desert. He had a tile next to it that was a straight line tile. It would have been better for you to have routed it there and gotten the victory points. But you were winning by enough, you didn't need them. Actually, I guess that was Miranda's. You would have given her the points. But I was happy for you to give me those points. I still came in last this game. So, that's the main actions you're going to take during the game. I think we covered every one of them.
I think so. I mean, it's just an interesting mix of the multi-use cards and then just trying to pick 1 or 2 areas you really want to focus on. You're not going to score a lot in everything, but you can score a lot in 1 or 2 areas.
Yeah.
And it's just figuring out what those 2 areas are early in the game and just focusing on it. Yeah. I focused mainly on the canals with a little bit. I did some cards, but mostly on the canals. I did very little trading. I did a little bit, but I didn't do a lot.
Yeah, and I focused on pretty much nothing this time. I focused on building gardens.
You did a little bit of everything.
I did a lot of gardens.
You did a lot of gardens because you almost built 4, right?
I could have gotten real close to building 4. I ended up building 3 complete ones. But the gardens were my big payout for my bonus. I maxed that out. So yeah, because gardens we thought originally were completed gardens for scoring, but they're not. They're actually individual tiles for scoring. So the more gardens you play, the more that
More
bonus was work. And I had maxed it to 3 victory points per garden tile.
Sweet.
So I think I ended up with the most in-game bonus points, but it didn't matter because I was so far behind because you got so much off of the canals
Yeah.
and Miranda got so much off of the trading that I was behind from the beginning. So as far as what we think of this game, I love the card mechanics. I like the canal mechanics a lot. I like the fact that how it introduced the moving around the board, very much Marco Polo-esque.
And in a way, we talked about this a little bit earlier, but I kind of like this a little bit better because in Marco Polo, which is one of my favorite games, I love that game, but it's just so expensive to move in that game because you have costs in between each city. It could be a little amount of coin, a little bit amount of camels, but it could get huge amounts of money between each city. This is a static 1 coin, no matter what, between each city. Kind of like that.
Yeah. Now, I will say the thing I don't like about it is it felt like some of the cards were less valuable. So, like, these yellow and pink ones, as you mentioned earlier, are super important, super valuable because pink is in-game scoring. Yellow is going to give you
better options
all throughout the game. There are some white and blue ones that are hit or miss useful because they're ongoing effects, which are really nice. But mostly, there's a lot of lightning ones, which are immediate effects that are one time. They can be powerful. They're way more powerful than those other cards.
Right.
But they don't weigh the same as the yellows and pinks in my eyes.
And there's a little bit of a way to mitigate that where you can actually search through the deck.
Yeah.
But if you search through the deck, you don't get this bonus that you would get if you just did the top card, which is a coin and a victory point. So, you just have to weigh that option.
Yeah. And you've got to, when you're choosing your in-game bonus cards, you've got to make sure you pick one that is going to be conducive to what you're either going to try to do or you already have been.
I mean, I was fairly lucky because I got 2 just straight static victory points. I got 23 victory points from the 2 that I got. And so the one I really wanted, someone took away from me already. So.
Yeah. So, I think there's a lot to like about this game as far as the way the mechanics work. I honestly was really pleasantly surprised by this game.
I was too.
For being as complex as it looked and a Suchy game, I was expecting this to be a lot harder to learn. It's not. It's fairly easy.
I could see AP being an issue with this, so this is definitely not an introductory game.
See, I don't feel like it is.
I think it could be. Because you'd be like, especially at the beginning, where do I start? I don't know where to start.
If you're a newbie playing it, but like for me, like if anybody at this table ever has analysis paralysis, it's me. Apart from Caleb, I'm the worst.
Yeah,
and I fully admit that and own that. And we played super quick.
We did. It was fairly quick.
There was a couple, like, towards the end where Miranda was, like, asking, whose turn is it? When it's just always a sign that she's getting frustrated because I'm thinking too hard. But in general, none of that happened. It flowed smooth. And some of the turns are super fast because if you take the color action one that triggers a color action ability, you're basically moving up a track twice.
And I did that several times.
Yeah, because that's the only way to outrace them other than building gardens, which takes a couple turns to do. So I think that, to me, this game is light enough. I mean, it's medium level. I fully agree with you. But for a Suchy game, it looked like when I was reading the rules, there was going to be a lot to it. And I got it out and it was like, this is actually pretty easy. It's kind of intuitive when you start playing it. So it's really not hard to learn this game at all. And it's a lot of fun. I mean, I really enjoyed this.
I enjoyed it. It was. I think that's the best word for it. It was just fun.
Yeah. I mean, it's a satisfying game when you accomplish things. But you can think you're winning, and then somebody can make a sale of like 7 pottery and go jump up 25 points on you, and so there's you've got to watch out for that blind strategy of jumping up.
And I didn't really think of it, but really everything's pretty public knowledge. You know what everybody's got. You know what cards they're getting. So.
And you kind of can see what they're doing.
Exactly.
It's a matter whether you can do anything about it or not.
But still, I mean, there's a little bit that you could do. Like you mentioned, the first game you were able to get a card that would have really blown Miranda's score out of the water, and you were able to get that to blocker. But there's not a whole lot of that.
Yeah.
And I like that too.
Yeah. And even then, there's other cards
Right.
that are going to be just as beneficial. So there's no backstabbing.
Yeah,
really.
there's no backstabbing, and unlike regular worker placement type games, there's no blocking because you can go to the same spots to trade. Other than the fact that the tile does flip when you do the trade,
Yeah.
so the other side could be totally different than what you're wanting. So other than that, but there's still multiple tiles that kind of do the same thing. Maybe not as good, but you can still sell the same product and get points and money. So there's very little blocking in it.
Yeah, so given as much fun as I've had, I've been trying to figure out what is the score I would give this. I still don't want to go up to a 9 yet.
I don't either,
but I think
because
it
the
could get
component
there.
quality is...
See, I weighed that in quality. I don't weigh, I know you do, but I don't weigh it again to gameplay. Gameplay is its own category. And from a gameplay perspective, I like the flow of this game. I'm at 8.5 right now, I think, but I think this could go up to a 9 for me.
I think gameplay, if I only looked at gameplay, it'd be a 9. But, component quality does add to gameplay for me. It adds a tactile feeling to it that can really make a game good or make it not as good as it could be. So I want to go down to an 8.5.
Okay.
I really like the game, though.
I mean, I think this could overtake Trajan for me as far as games
Really?
I like.
Oh, wow. That's saying a lot.
Yeah, I like Trajan a lot, but it's another one that suffers from quality components.
Right, that's true.
But the gameplay of this, I think there's more to it than there is in Trajan. And I think as it grows on me, this could go up to a 9.
Okay.
But either way, it's a great game.
It really is very good.
We've been very blessed this year already with
so
a
many
lot
great
of
games.
good games that came out at the end of 2024, first part of 2025. So, and we got a lot more Kickstarters that have arrived to go. I know Galactic Cruise just came in. Looking forward to that. I got Escape Room Tycoon. I love escape rooms, so I'm eager to try that.
I got one I want to bring over to kind of play with Miranda. I think she would like, not you, but it's called Dragon Eclipse by Awakened Realms. Really beautiful, really cool looking game, but it's only a 2-player game.
Oh, okay.
And so it's a huge box for a 2-player.
So in
game.
other words, you want to kick me out?
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay.
Yeah, because I like Pokemon, so it's basically Pokemon with dragons. So it's really cool. But I got that, and there's just some really cool looking. I got that one I really am looking forward to bringing here and playing with you. I don't know if Miranda would like, because I don't think she liked Too Many Bones. But it's the Evolution of Too Many Bones, which is the new Elder Scrolls game. Looks amazing.
I love Elder Scrolls to begin with.
Yeah.
Looking forward. I heard there's rumblings that there's a new video game of it coming.
Yeah, Elder Scrolls 6 is coming out probably next year, but I'm looking forward to it.
Hopefully I'll have a job in time to buy that one. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
All right. Well, that's our thoughts on Resafa and several other games there at the end. So, if you
it's got our stamp of approval.
That's right. This one definitely does. If you've played it, let us know what you think. If you've played any good, really solid Euros, let us know what you think.
What do you think about Vladimir Suchy? I think he's great. What do you think of him?
Yeah, he's a great. I think he's a great designer as well. I can't say necessarily. I don't know who my favorite is. I've got a lot of favorites, but he's among them. But I know he's one of your favorites.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
For sure.
So, all right. Well, until next time, I'm not even sure what to say about camels. You keep riding those camels, and we'll keep playing. All right.
Bye.
Bye.